YouTube, what's up? Back again for another daily fishing video here on Andrew Upshaw Fishing. First off, first order of business, I hope all of you had a fantastic 4th of July. I know I had a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time with family and spent a lot of time unloading a U-Haul. So there's that. Yesterday I posted a video about the Bassmaster Fantasy Fishing Show at Lake Champlain. I think they kick that off tomorrow. I'm expecting them to catch them pretty good, and I think you should absolutely watch some of that bass live because it's going to be entertaining. There's no doubt about it. Today's topic of discussion, though, is something that I've wanted to talk about for quite some time. It is that midsummer transition, and sometimes people don't understand that there is a true midsummer transition, and those fish really adjust quite a bit over the course of the hotter it gets throughout the year. So let's talk a little bit about that. Obviously I have my Navionics up, so I'm going to show you kind of how they transition exactly and the kind of places that I look for. Right now I have Kentucky Lake up, and hopefully this will help you the next time you're on the water. If you have not yet, hit that sub button in the bottom right hand corner. I had a guy that told me the other day that he's been subscribed to my channel for quite some time. He went and back checked it, and for some reason YouTube had unsubscribed him from my channel. So make sure you check to make sure you're subscribed, and comment below what would you like to see me do on Navionics. Is there a particular thing that you'd like to see or see me break down? I'd love to hear what it is. Guys, I hope y'all enjoy this video, and let's jump right on into it. So today we're going to talk about that midsummer transition. The midsummer transition is when it gets really hot. It's been hot for, a month straight. Everybody's graphing offshore, and the offshore bite is kind of getting a little tougher. You're having to downsize baits. You're having to change up a lot of the things that you're doing. And this is a time of year that I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on, because I've kind of understood that there's that mid-season transition and how they move. So I'm going to kind of share some of that knowledge with you today. So typically in the summertime, post-spawn, one thing that not many people know, or maybe you do know, or you've forgotten or something, but a lot of times these fish, what they do is the very first thing they do is they go the deepest part of the lake in the post-spawn. So they'll go the deepest area, so 20, 25, 30 foot, and that's where they're going to transition to. But as it gets hotter, as that oxygen level starts to rise up, those fish go shallower and shallower, and surprisingly enough, a lot of times those fish aren't as deep as we actually give them credit to be. Unless, now granted, there are some, situations where they're going to still be really deep. Really clear water reservoirs where the oxygen level stays really low. But in the places that I fish quite a bit, those fish definitely kind of move up, whether in the water column or they start moving up on tops of flats. This is the time of year where you're going to start seeing a lot of schooling fish, and a lot of times that has to do with that oxygen level rising, so those fish just don't have to go as deep. So here's Kentucky Lake. This is the Paris Landing Bridge, a very popular area, no doubt about it. And I mean, we'll look at, here's a very popular, anytime you have these, this is the main river channel here. Anytime you have where that main river channel hits a creek, these points have always been big time, high percentage, early summer landing spots for these bass. So where do those bass go when it gets really hot? And that's where you start looking at places like this. You see this big ridge that runs, it's really close to this place. But you see this ridge right here. It has 8, 9 foot on top, 10 foot, 15 foot. It's a shallower bar that is adjacent to this point out here that hits the main lake. So what these fish do, and this is something that I've learned over the years, is they either will do one of two things, especially on TVA lakes. They either go to a shell bed up on top of a flat or on the edge of a bar, whatever it may be, but it'll be shallow. It'll be like 10, 12, 14, 15, 18 foot. It won't be out there in 20, 25. They'll be kind of on the side of a lot shallower bars. Now, are you going to find them stacked up like 150 fish? Probably not. But are you going to be able to pull up and catch you 1 or 2 or 3? Sure, absolutely. But there's another thing that comes into play this time of year, and that's brush piles. And there they also have those stake piles, which are like a crappie bed, basically. But 9 times out of 10, if you look at all across the country, one thing that definitely starts playing in July, especially July, August, September, as it gets hotter, is brush piles. And I've had some success in really deep brush piles at 20, 25 foot. But most of my very my best brush piles are shallower. They're the ones that are 12, 15, 18 foot of water. And I truly think that they get so much pressure, those bass get so much pressure on a spot like this one right here, that the more pressure they get, the more people that idle over them, the more people that catch them, they'll swim. They'll swim all the way over here, and they'll swim to a place that they can't get graphed. Or it's a lot harder for them to be seen, and maybe boats are running over the top of them, but they're not stopping and idling them as much, and absolutely not fishing them as much. So what those fish will do is they'll slide up on these shallow bars, and they'll transition to that better oxygenated water, even though it's hotter. I know it kind of seems a little backwards, getting hotter and going shallower, but it really does that. If there's grass on that bar, they're going to slide up into the edge of that grass, and if it's matted grass, they're going to slide up under that matted grass. The hotter it gets, the shallower these fish will start moving. I'm not saying they're going to go to the bank. I'm not saying they're going to just slide up there in 5 foot of water under a bush or whatever. That typically is not the case, but they will slide up in those brush piles, those shallower brush piles, the shell beds, stake piles, things like that, the grass. I mean, that's what they kind of transition to, and that's the time of year that you can really exploit those fish. So when you're trying to choose a bait for that time of year, you're trying to go that late summer bait change, are you going to go ultra finesse? Not necessarily. There are some situations where you need to go finesse, especially if everybody's kind of figured out the game. If everybody's figured out that, man, they're all on brush piles, I need to stop looking at ledges, I need to start looking at brush. Yeah, you should probably pick up a magnum size Ned rig, and I'm saying magnum size, like an actual just shaky head with like a 5-inch Ocho on it. I mean, basically is what it is. You might also have some really good success with drop shotting, like a dream shot. Casting a dream shot around, that's probably one of my favorite ways to catch them if I have to finesse a brush pile, because it'll stay kind of suspended up in the brush pile, and 9 times out of 10 the fish that are sitting in the brush pile, especially if you look at live scope, are sitting up off the bottom. So you're casting around to those fish, and you got a bait that's sitting right in front of their face, and a lot of times they're going to eat that bait. But if you're fishing shell beds and places like that, more open water stuff, if you can get away with the crankbait, it definitely works, like a 5XD, a Series 5. In some cases, you might even have to go to a 3XD, a small compact body, because they have seen so many crankbaits. They have gotten so much pressure. By doing that, you're going to get more bites for sure. Now, when my grass situation, when those fish move up in that midsummer transition, I kind of do about 4 different things. That midsummer transition, it depends. If they're going into scattered grass, absolutely a topwater, you got to keep it in your hand some. That topwater is going to start playing more and more as it gets hotter, and then it goes in transitions to fall. But the summertime's a fantastic time to pick up a big topwater, like a big sexy dog, and going to work on them. If you're going to fish on the bottom, though, I can't tell you how good a 10-inch worm is on the outside edge of your grass. I throw a bunch of different ones. It just kind of depends where I'm at. But if you have an outside grass line and it's not matted, tie you on a 10-inch worm. I actually did a grass video last year talking about throwing big worms in the grass. I think the video title was Snakes in the Grass, so you should go check that out. It really goes into detail how I approach that type of fishing. I'll also go to like a straight tail finesse worm, throwing it on Texas rig if I really need to finesse them. Now, obviously, if you're on a body of water that has like matted vegetation, absolutely pick up a big jig. A big 1-ounce hack attack jig is a great option. You're going to get some really big bites if you do that. But really pay attention. I mean, it's getting hot. The fish are starting to kind of get weird. They do move up. Make sure you pay attention to that transition, guys. I'm telling you, if you try it, you go out there and you spend some time out there idling around looking, you're going to find more stuff than you can imagine. I mean, just looking at the map, looking at Navionics here, you can really kind of pinpoint where these fish are. Right here, this would be a great early summer spot right here. And then where those fish are going to go? Probably to this bar here or this bar here, this inside bar. So paying attention to those little details, and you can do all this research before you even get to the lake, especially if you kind of already have your honey hole that you're like, man, that is my favorite spot on the lake, but they're not there. This is a very popular spot right here. This point right here is a high percentage place early summer on Kentucky Lake. where will those fish go? Actually, what I've noticed is a lot of times they'll transition down this creek and they'll get on creek turns, like this creek turn here, or that creek turn there. You'll be surprised how far these fish will move, even with the water really not changing very much, actually getting hotter, if anything, and they'll move shallower. So pay attention to where you're at, what the water temp is. Are the fish seem like they're just kind of disappearing on you? If they are, change it up. Find you some brush piles, find you some shell beds. Really use your graph, use your map, use your navionics, and you're going to find those little secret places that not everybody is fishing. Guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If y'all want to see more of this content, the only way I'm going to know is if you like the video and you comment below and tell me you like it. I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see you on the next video.